Okay. So I actually wanted an observatory. It was late August, and so the bears were coming down from the mountains to rummage for food, garbage, and stuff like that. I'd come in to grab some water and take a little break from outside, and I heard all this noise, so I ran back outside. The trash can, there was trash all over the yard and everything, but the rig hadn't moved. Then I could hear the bear. And I saw him in the front yard, and he got up on his hind legs, yelling at me. My first thought was, I have to save my telescope. It wasn't about me, it was about the telescope. I woke up my wife, and I positioned her at the front door to see the bear, and she's freaking out because there's a bear right there. If he starts chasing me, yell at me. And I was tearing apart my stuff in the driveway with the bear about 20 yards away from me. I had to get it and save it, and yeah, she thought I was insane, and she was like, you need to build an observatory. So I named my observatory Bear Claw Observatory because really the bear helped me be able to build an observatory. But to be completely honest, if that bear wanted it in my observatory, I could just swipe it, come right on in. It's
Hey everyone, welcome to another Entering Into Space podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Miller, and tonight's guest is Joe Navara. Joe does his imaging from the Bear Claw Observatory from the foothills of Colorado. Joe also has a really kick-ass YouTube channel where he does image processing videos as well as gear reviews and shows his setup for his Bear Claw Observatory that he built himself. Oh, seriously, and make sure you stay to the end of the video where you can see some amazing images that Joe's taken. As a reminder, if you want to download the podcast version of this interview, you can check me out on any major podcast platform or check out the link below to my Buzz Spout account. And tonight, Astro Freaks, I give you Joe Navara. So Joe Navara, did I pronounce your last name right?
Navara? Yeah.
Navara. Cool.
Yes.
How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you, Steve?
Yeah, it's really good. It's good to meet you. Finally, I've definitely followed your work and followed your YouTube channel and
Thanks. I
your
appreciate
process. Yeah, so it's been
Same
really
here.
great. Yeah, cool. So I noticed like you're out in Colorado. You're under some really great skies, and you've built an observatory. And then I noticed in your about page that you talked about how this is kind of something you started late in life. So what the heck happened, man? How'd you fall down this rabbit hole?
Yeah, so well, it was really cool. I've always been interested in the sky and stars and stuff, but I've always lived in a very light polluted area, so I've never really seen the Milky Way or anything like that. And I've lived in Colorado my whole life, the majority of it, and we would go camping and stuff like that, and I would always see the stars, and I always wanted to get a telescope, but then you quickly forget about it once you get back and you're working and stuff. Well, we recently moved about 20 miles west of the largest city that my wife and I work in. And so we have a little bit of a commute every day into work, but the skies here are Bortle 2, Bortle 3.
Oh,
And
wow.
so the first time we moved, well, the first few nights we moved here, there was no moon. And you could see
Ah.
the Milky Way, and you could almost even see Andromeda if you just go outside and look. And so I got to buy a telescope, and that started it. And wow, it really ballooned from there.
So how long did it take you to go from observing and you went, okay, I've seen everything I could see, to going, like, how did you even get to the point where you thought, well, I can take a picture through this telescope?
Yeah, so uh, that's the funny thing. So I didn't have a telescope, and I didn't know anything about telescopes or anything like that. But I did have a Canon camera. I had an old Rebel XT.
Yep.
And so I started So I figured, well, I could almost see Andromeda. I'm gonna see if I can take a picture of it. And I literally, I started looking online and stuff, and found the 500-second rule and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I said, well, okay, I could take maybe a 1 or 2 second exposure. I had a 300 millimeter kit lens, and so I sat there one night for about 4 hours, literally clicking the button, taking 2 second exposures, and then I would look and I would move the camera, I'd recenter it in the center again, and I'd click, and yeah, I got about 10 minutes of total integration time and thought it was the best image ever.
Yeah.
Actually did a video about it called The Dark Side of Astrophotography, where I where I talked about that's how I first started, and because
Yeah.
before that I was a wildlife photographer,
Oh,
took a lot of
okay.
pictures of birds in flight and stuff like that.
So you had some photograph experience before getting into photographing an image
Oh
where
yeah.
nothing shows up. Yeah.
That was very difficult for me,
Yeah.
and it took me a long time. That part of the hobby was really hard,
Oh yeah. So
because
when you got started, what did you use to like process your data? Did you use a free program or what was that like?
well, I already had Photoshop because
Okay.
I used that in my wildlife photography. So I found Deep Sky Stacker, and I stacked it, and then I tried to use Photoshop to pull it out.
Hmm.
And I'm not a Photoshop guru. I would just use it to clean up some of my images, and it, I was bad. I was really bad, but
We all were.
some of those images were
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I don't know, they reminded me of bingo ink mark blobs.
Yeah.
Look at
Yeah.
this nebula.
uh, I remember trying to shoot. I forgot what target it was. I think it was a flaming star. I was like, "There's a flaming star," and so I tried to shoot it one time, and I think all I got was like amp glow and moon glow. I didn't even get the image. I wasn't anywhere near it, but I processed the heck out of that thing, and I kept telling everybody that I captured the flaming star. And I think it was just a really jacked up image. Yeah. But that's how excited you get. You're just like, oh my god, I gotta see something.
Yeah.
So,
Honestly, it was the reverse of that when I first started. I think the third or fourth image I ever tried was Pleiades, and you know how Pleiades has all that wisping dust around it.
yeah, yeah.
I thought I was capturing some kind of stray light, and I kept trying to attenuate it, get rid
Yeah.
of it and darken
Oh
it, because
no.
it was like, oh, this is ruining my picture.
The coveted dark nebula you were trying to just get rid of. You're
Yeah.
clipping out and wiping out, huh? Yeah, see, I was the opposite because I'm in pretty bright skies and I would take pictures of. I knew about the Seven Sisters. My dad would always say, "Look at the Seven Sisters." And I'm like, "Well, okay, there's a bunch of stars." And then when I took a picture of it, I was like, "Oh, that's pretty." And then somebody told me, "Oh man, there's a bunch of nebula around that." And I was like, "Get out of here! No, seriously." And now, so I didn't know, and you were trying to get rid of it. We were both screwed, weren't
That's funny.
we?
Yeah.
So, what was your first? You say like first astro rig, like full on. Okay, I'm deep. I'm headed. I'm head into this. I'm deep into this. What was the first thing that had maybe a camera and some auto guiding capabilities or some sort of tracking capabilities? What was that rig like?
Well, like I said, so I was actually trying to take pictures manually with a tripod, and I knew that I needed some kind of a tracker. So I got online. I was doing research, and everyone said that the mount's the most important thing. That's what I kept reading. So I decided just to get a big mount right away. Well, to me it was big. It was the EQ6 R Pro.
Okay.
To me that was huge because it's expensive, and you're just getting into this. You don't even know
Yeah.
if you like it. And so I got that, and I continued to use. I had a birding lens. Um, I still have it, and it's a 150 to 600, and it locks, so
Oh,
I didn't have
cool.
to worry about any kind of creep throughout the night. And so I would lock it in at like 600 millimeters and sit there and just take images of Andromeda. And I really didn't know a whole lot other than Andromeda, Pleiades, Orion, but that wasn't the time of year that Orion was out when I first
Yeah.
started.
Gotcha. What was the first? So after Andromeda, what was like the second galaxy?
I,
Because there's a lot of galaxies out there. Andromeda, you can see it probably with the naked eye, I guess, if you had really good out where you're at, maybe still. But so that's the one you can definitely see with binoculars. But what's the first
yeah.
galaxy that you captured that was really obscured, or some of those M targets galaxies?
Uh, I want to say it was Bodes. I think
Yep.
Bodes Galaxy was
Yeah.
the second one that I took
Did
after
you find
Andromeda.
it with plate solving, or did you just look for it through a spotting scope?
No, I found it with plate solving
Oh.
right away. I started plate solving. Um, well, through the research, while I was looking for the mount,
Yeah.
everybody was talking about APT, so I started with
Yeah.
APT,
Yeah.
and I was able to plate solve with it.
Wow. Yeah. I did. I thought plate solving was witchcraft. So I was like, no, it doesn't work. You have to get on one knee and you have to strain and you have to go
Yeah,
like this. And I'm doing this in my head, turn it completely sideways, and you have to have a neck ache.
that's me
That's the
trying
only
to
way.
do planetary.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I haven't
you're
even
out
dove
there
into
and
that. Yeah.
it's bad for me here. I think the Rocky Mountains being just beyond the the scene's bad for planetary. I tried last year. I did a few videos on it. I tried to get into it,
Yeah.
and my scene is so awful
Hmm.
night after night after night here. It's yeah, kind of just want to forget about planetary.
So if you could only do one, meaning super wide field camera lens, moderately wide field like 80 millimeter, mega deep field over 1,000 millimeter, planetary uh, photography. If you could only do one for the rest of your life, which one would you choose? All right, you didn't expect that tough question.
I'd be really bummed out, actually.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think wide field probably, because I could crop in if I had to, and
Yeah, like camera
yeah,
lens
but I
wide
would still
field
be.
or 80 millimeter telescope wide field.
Oh no, I'd still want the 80 millimeter telescope.
Okay.
I'd want like around the 300 to 400 millimeter focal length,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
and I'd
That's a
still
sweet
call that
spot.
wide field.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing that I've never really done that I'll ask you if you've done, but that you said you had a camera lens. So like, 100 millimeter, 75 millimeter, these mega wide field shots, does those interest you, or, where you're really not able to get the detail, but you're seeing so much in one shot? Is that something interesting to you?
I mean, a little bit, but not a lot, to be completely honest. There's a couple things that I've thought about doing where it would be great. Like getting the horse head and Orion
Mm.
in the same shot, or Olive Bernard's loop,
Oh
maybe
yeah.
in one shot. That would be kind of cool. But other than that, not really. I mean, there's the whole Cygnus region and everything that.
Yeah.
But no, I kind of like to get in a little bit up close and personal if I can on some of these targets. I like to pull out the detail. I really like the globules and pulling those out. It's pretty cool. As a matter of fact, I had did a video on. I always thought that the North American and the Pelican Nebula were two separate uh, nebulas or nebulae. I thought they were separate, and when I first started, I didn't have my equipment wasn't good enough. I wasn't putting enough time on it, and then I realized after imaging it a few times that it's a dark nebula overlying the other two,
Hmm.
and that was kind of an interesting uh, discovery of my own.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you've noticed, and I've never really seen anybody talking much about it now that you're talking about that area, but imaging just the North America Nebula, I can get some pretty vibrant colors from it. And then when I drop down to the Pelican Nebula, it just is very flat. Like I can't really ever get that vibrant lightness pop. And it's striking. Have you found that to be the same thing
Yeah.
when you're processing that? I wonder what's causing that. Have you ever looked into that? Have any
No, I've never looked
ideas?
into it, but
Yeah.
the Cygnus wall. that whole area there in the North American Nebula is just it's amazing to me.
Oh yeah.
If you even if you had a long focal length telescope, you could sit there and just take bits and pieces of it.
Yeah, it almost appears like it's a wave that's casting shadows out over the rest of the nebula. I mean, I don't know if that's really what's happening, but to me, it looks like shadows, like the sun's coming up over a mountain or something, and it's just casting shadows out over some rocks or something. It's incredible. If
Yeah, it's
you've
really
never seen
cool.
it, it's out there. It's amazing. It's probably one of my favorite images or places to image, for sure. So you were out in the underneath these Bortle 3 skies, lucky bastard, and
Yeah.
um, you went, wait a minute, I think I could build a little roll off roof house around this telescope. How did that come about?
Okay.
Yeah. That's a little question. Yeah.
So I actually wanted an observatory, but my wife, I had just gotten into this. My wife's just looking at me like you're going overboard again.
Yeah.
I do that a lot.
Again.
And so I was like, okay, I'll put that in the back of my mind. And it was late August, and we hadn't had a lot of rain here, and so the bears were coming down from the mountains
Ugh.
to rummage for food, garbage,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I had just come in to grab some water. I was at that time I would stay up all night with my rig, and I'd come in to grab some water and take a little break from outside, and I heard all this noise, so I ran back outside, and uh, the trash can, and there was trash all over the yard
Oh
and
no.
everything, but the rig hadn't moved, and I thought, oh man, it's must be raccoons or something. And so I picked up all the trash and I went out there, and then I could hear the bear, and I
Oh
saw
no.
him in the front yard. He was only about 30, maybe 30 yards, 20 yards away from me. And he got up on his hind legs yelling at me, and so I ran back in the house. And my first thought was, I have to save my telescope.
Of course.
It
Yeah.
wasn't about me. It was
No.
about the telescope. And at that time, I was doing it in the driveway. So I opened up the garage door. I woke up my wife. This was like at 2 in the morning. And I positioned her at the front door. And I said, watch, do you see the bear? And she's freaking out because there's a bear right there. And I said, I'm going to go in the garage, run through the garage and bring my telescope and stuff in it. And if he starts chasing me, yell at me so that I know. And I was tearing apart my stuff in the driveway with the bear about 20 yards away from me
No way.
to save my gear. I didn't want him to knock it over because I
Yeah.
mean to me that was a huge investment at the
Oh
time.
yeah.
And what still is. Not
Yeah.
just at the time, it still is. So I had to get it and save it, and yeah, she thought I was insane, and then she was like, you need to build an observatory.
Ah.
And I'm like,
Then you paid the bear off later.
yeah. So I named my observatory Bear Claw Observatory because
Very
really the
good.
bear helped me be
Yeah.
able to build an observatory. But to be completely honest, if that bear wanted it in my observatory, it could just swipe it and
Yeah.
come right on in. It's
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So did you just draw that up yourself, or did you get like observatory, plans online, or how did you go through the thought process? Did you build it yourself? Did you have somebody build it?
no, I built it myself, but
Good deal.
I did get some plans. I found some plans online, and I just modified them to meet my needs. I had seen Kurt's from AstroQuest 1,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
I'm
said, "Oh,
interviewing him next
that's
week.
perfect. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's
I got a
awesome."
lineup. I got a lineup. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
the one that taught me astrophotography.
Oh
I've told
yeah.
him that. I've met him. He actually came to my house, and
Cool.
he came to my observatory while he was passing through on his way on vacation, and it was pretty fun to meet him.
Yeah, I
And
can
then,
imagine.
to tell him that, hey, you're the reason that I got started, or
Oh
you
yeah.
helped me get started, not the reason, but he taught me so
Yeah,
much.
he was a lot of, and I'll definitely remind him next week. But he was a lot of help for me with APT because
Yes.
that I love the program. I don't use it anymore. I feel bad because I actually had a lot of communication with Ivo, and I think he's done a great job on an entry level, capturing software. But I've since moved on. but I still really are fond of that program. And Kurt, when I went online, it was like, who are you going to find to do this? It was Trevor and Kurt. Those were the two big ones, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In,
And so yeah. So what rig are you using now? What's a full rig breakdown for you? What's your hot object now that you're using?
I I still have my EQ6R, and I
Good.
keep that in the observatory, but it's not on my pier.
Okay.
I kind of try and use that more in the summertime when it's nicer throughout the night. It's too cold for me. I'm getting too old. I don't know, but I use it
Taking
though
off.
to get stuff lower than 20 degrees, because where I'm at, I could still pick up some of the southern targets just barely.
Okay.
And then they just poke their heads over the mountains, and I'm able to get them. But inside the observatory, I've got the CEM 120 mount,
Oh
and
wow, the 120.
yeah, I really like that mount. It's so nice. Oh man,
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
awesome mount.
Yeah.
And right currently I've got the Edge HD8 on there,
Okay.
and I normally use the 294 Pro with it, but right now I've got the 2600 Pro. And it's
Gotcha.
just because I've been too lazy to take flats, and I have to take every 6 months or so. I have to take new darks for the 294. Otherwise, you
Really?
start to see the starburst pattern again.
I
I don't know
didn't
if
know that.
that's me or if that's everybody or
Yeah.
that's just the camera I have, but
Hmm.
I've been too lazy to do it, so I slapped that on, and for
So
now.
you're shooting mono primarily now?
Yeah, that's all I've ever really shot with a dedicated astro camera. I've never even owned a color
Me either.
dedicated astro camera.
Yeah, me either. I almost bought one the other day. I was talking to a buddy of mine because I was wanting a new camera, and I almost bought the 533 color. And I was just like, I literally had the curse over the High Point Scientific thing. And I was like, do I really, really, really know? And I just went, nope. And I bought the mono. So I've used it for like a week now. So the 533 mono is what
Oh,
I'm,
okay, cool.
yeah. But yeah. So what are your pros and cons as far as mono versus color, in your opinion?
Um, well, more I know more people shoot color, but
Yeah.
um, I'm a diehard mono. I just I don't know. I don't know if I could actually go back or ever really use a full color camera, just because I've just done it for years and years and years in mono.
Yeah.
That's me. That's what I do. I
Yeah.
don't really have a great reason. I mean, I get more detail out of it by far, and I don't have to worry about trying to make fake SHO images out of my color
Yeah.
data, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Well, it's
I
not
see it.
fake, but you know what I mean. Not really
Yeah. I see a lot of
fake.
people doing that. Yeah, for sure. Um,
Uh,
have you noticed? I know you did shoot color. You shot it. You said with a DSLR, a Canon. Was that the only Canon camera that you had? Did you have a? Did you ever Astro modify a camera, and or did you just immediately go into dedicated Astro cams?
yeah, I just went straight to. I bought a ASI 1600
Okay.
Pro. I think they had just come out, or
Yeah.
maybe they'd been out for a while. But yeah, I just bought one of those. And then from there, I got a 294, and I used the two of them together. And then I sold the 1600 and bought the 2600.
Gotcha. What filters are you partial to these days?
Um, well, I actually have a mix of all three. I used Antlia Pro filters with the 2600,
Hmm.
and then I've got Astrodon and Chroma filters, kind of a
Oh
mix
wow.
in
Wow.
with my 294.
And do you find what do you find on the quality? Because those Astrodon and Chroma filters are mega expensive. I mean, I guess that's probably top of the line. And Antlia has
Yeah,
definitely given them a run for their money. Have you noticed they're comparable? Can you say yes? I definitely see a difference between those two filters.
I do not see a big difference. With the Antlia Pros. Now I know a lot of people originally had the regular Antlias, and they would get some they would get some halos in the oxygen. I'm
Yeah.
not getting that with the pros.
Okay. Gotcha. So what's your favorite OTA you've used so far? Your favorite telescope. Has it
Yeah.
been one that's like the workhorse that's produced the most images that you can't possibly bring yourself to sell, or are you pretty much just like shoot and move on, not really partial
Um,
to anything?
no, actually, the Z83 has been the, or Z81 I've had
Z83, yeah.
for geez, I've had that for 4 years, and I've taken the most images with it. But I have wanted to sell it and move on to something else. I've wanted to at least get a triplet, or I mean, it was the very first scope that I bought, and so I just bought a doublet scope, and I don't see a huge difference between that
Really?
and some of the other scopes that I've tested or tried. But currently, I only own two. I've only got that and the Edge HT8. And the
Yeah.
Edge is by far my favorite telescope right now.
So I'm just trying to figure out where the dead body is that you killed to steal the Edge 8, because that's the only way I could figure out how to get one.
Yeah.
I can't find one, literally, at all, anywhere. I don't know where
Oh,
they're at.
wow.
You
Are
and
they
Kurt
out
have one.
again?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember,
Yeah.
actually, I was talking to Kurt when I had bought mine, and we were both waiting for it for months.
Yeah.
We was on back order for 6 or 8 months
Oh, wow.
when we had it, and yeah, it was. And then I got mine before him, and he was like, "Oh."
And you rubbed it in, of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
a little bit.
Have you done the Fast Star
Oh, the
transformation
Hyperstar?
to the Hyperstar? That's what I meant to say. Have you tried that yet?
No. A couple reasons. One, I don't have a color camera, and so if you put
Yeah.
that on, my big filter will be in the way.
Okay,
Filter
yeah.
will be kind
You'd
of
have to
taking up
you'd have to
most of my.
manually change the filters out one at a
I'd have
time.
to manually change the filters out,
That's a
and
drag. Who wants to do that?
I couldn't do that
Yeah.
anymore. I got to tell you, now that I've got the observatory, I love to go out there. I'll go out there and I'll play for an hour or two, and then I come in and let
Yeah.
it do its thing. And I'll still get up even at 2, 3 in the morning once in a while and run out there with it and make sure everything's okay. But then I come back in again,
Oh,
and
yeah.
go back to sleep.
Yeah.
I can't do the stay up all night with it like I used to when I first started.
No, and it's weird because I don't know about you, but one thing on my bucket list is I've never gone to a dark sky site and camped and taken pictures with a whole bunch of other people. And it's just, for me, the hobby has been very rewarding, and it's been a lot of connecting with people like you through social media. But I've never really imaged shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of people who have the same passion with their telescopes. And that's something I want to do, down the road.
That'd be
But
cool. I've never done that either.
yeah, but that would keep you out there all night long. And when I first started, I was out there, and I didn't like, there was a lot of witchery. One was plate solving, the other was a meridian flip. I just could not even fathom that was even possible. So I would image until the camera almost hit the tripod, and then I would wrap everything up, because I was like, screw it. I don't have time to try to find it, because it took me an hour to find it in the first place. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I would just bring everything in at midnight. And, but I think a lot of that fondness has kind of faded, just because it has become so automated. So, talking about that, have you found that same thing? Is there things that you do to try to find that excitement again in this hobby? Have you lost it? Have you got burned out at all? Any of that kind of thing happened for you?
Yes and no, I think. Some of the stuff that used to, when I very first started, I actually thought that polar aligning was fun.
Yeah.
Not anymore. But I thought it was fun. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I get to do this every night
Yeah.
before I start.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat.
Yeah.
And and so then after you've done that for a while, and you're like, okay, this is really mundane task, and of course I don't have to do it now that I have a peer, or very rarely do I have to do it. But it's the same thing with that. I mean, staying all night with your scope and running through the whole thing, it's fun on occasion, but I still have a lot of fun doing the new things or finding new targets or trying to do new things. Like I'll be doing some research, and they found a new planet. Like I can't remember the name of those guys, but they're a team. One's in France and one's in America. I can't remember where the other guy lives. Maybe it's Germany, where they all get together and they find these new planetary nebulas. And I'll try and do that, or I'll try and see if I can find what they found and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And so that kind of interests me more now, and the fact that I could operate everything from inside the house has allowed me to play around a lot more. When I was
Mm.
outside freezing, I just wanted to get on a target, get my
Yeah.
stuff set up, and start those images coming in, because I didn't want to waste any of my clear night.
Yeah.
And now that I can, kind of do it leisurely in the house, I play around a lot more, and
Yeah.
sometimes I find some really cool stuff that I never would have found before.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've tried to even search different parts of dense nebula to see if I could find any kind of interesting structure just to image it. And a lot of times I've landed on stuff that doesn't even have a name. You're just but my problem is if I don't see, I need that instant gratification. Can I hand up and raise and say yes, I'm guilty of that? If I don't see anything in the sub, I move on. And I'm sure there's targets out there that'd be really cool if I could just get past that. But like, and this will lead me into one of your questions. But my nemesis target is the witch head. I have tried it a couple times. I see jack crap in the sub, and I'm like, screw this. Because I don't have a lot of clear nights, and I don't want to waste them, right? So, is there a target out there for you that something that you just feel like you really haven't been able to capture to your satisfaction? Something's been really tough for you to capture.
The Ghost Nebula. I can't remember what that star is called. Gamma, whatever. That star just blows up no matter what I
Oh yeah,
use. It
yeah,
blows out everything, and so I've never really gotten the good. I've never put a lot of time into capturing it. I've never tried. Like I usually do between 16 and 40 hours on the target, or try to. And I've never put that kind of time into it, just because as soon as I get my first set of data for the first night, and I look at it, that star always
yeah.
does something to screw it up, and so I never finish it. Yeah, one day I'm gonna actually image that
Oh yeah,
and
I've seen
correctly.
that image, and I've seen the witch head that has that big starburst. It almost looks like a comet. Have you seen some of those images where
Yeah,
they kind of leave
I
it in? It's
the,
like, oh my
I
god.
left mine in. I left
Yeah.
mine in. Yeah, there's a, I would. Can you, I thought, well, when I first showed it to my wife, she said it looks like somebody just blew up the Death Star, because the
yeah,
ghost head was
yeah,
still
yeah,
there, and
yeah.
and the beam was.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. There's still a lot. I mean, I've imaged a lot, but I think there's still a lot out there to image. And I think I had Glenn on a couple weeks ago, and
I
I was
saw
telling
that.
him,
It was.
yeah, that was a great time, man. He's a great guy. Uh, that I was telling him about. Stellarium has the Deep Sky Survey, the red and the colorized that shows you a
Yeah.
ton more nebula. And something like that really helps to go, okay, well, what else is out here? Because if you just look at Stellarium and out of the box, you're not going to see all that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually learned that watching that. I
Oh,
had
really?
no idea. I had no idea that that was there. So I was
Well,
watching that, and I was like, "Oh, this
voila.
is cool. I'm learning."
Well, there you go. Yeah. So before that, what did you use to research to, like, you sit down and you're like, how did you research and to try to find new things to shoot and frame them up? Were you using Stellarium, or did you use anything else?
Yeah, Stellarium, Telescopius, Astrobin. I use Instagram. I mean, literally go out and see. Like one time, I follow Tommy on Instagram, like
Yeah.
a million other people do.
Yeah, he's rocking the serious Instagram followers, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I had talked to him a few times before, but I messaged him. He did this ring. Oh gosh, what was it? It was a ring though, and it was in the middle of nowhere, and it wasn't in anything. And he posted it, and I thought, oh man, this is so cool. So I had messaged him and asked him for the coordinates, and he shot him over to me,
Yeah.
and and I just started shooting it. And So I use all kinds of different things, but I'll go on Instagram and I'll find some uh, targets or something that's interesting to me, and then I'll go look on Telescopius or Stellarium, and actually even in Nina, I the problem that I'm having now is that I want to go for some obscure targets that take a lot of time, and in all of these software programs, when you go look at that target, there's nothing there
Yeah.
because no one's either submitted the image or the sky surveys it's blank, even though you know something's there, and so
Yeah.
that makes it really difficult because I don't know if it's going to fit my field of view, or if I'm going to, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you're aware of, I was just looking it up here. Woodland Woodlands plural observatory.com. So if you go to that website, they have all the sharpless targets listed and named and photographed.
oh, cool.
And yeah, Woodlands. Wait a minute. I'm going to say it one more time. Woodlandsobservatory.com. And it has everything. And it shows some fairly decent images of that stuff. And sharpless targets are something that I've really been working on recently. Obviously, I guess they're sharpless because they're spongy. Maybe.
I don't know why they're called that, but yeah, they're some of my favorites to go
Yeah.
after.
Yeah. And so I've definitely been trying to rack them up. Have you ever thought about doing the messier list?
Yeah, I mean, I've done quite a few of them, but
Yeah.
I've never actually went through and said, "No, I'm gonna do one, all the way through."
Yeah, there's a lot of them that are really tiny. Yeah, so
Y-
you got to have the focal length for that, for sure.
Yeah, it's just strange to me because I've been at it for 5 years now, and
Cool.
I still just go on like I say, a lot of times I'll go on Telescopius and I'll ask, "What's in the sky tonight in my area?"
Yeah.
And I'll still find things that I haven't imaged yet. It just blows my mind. And I'm like, I'm gonna try that. And unfortunately, though, doing that, a lot of my images are awful. I'm like, oh, no wonder nobody ever images this thing.
Yeah.
Never see anybody image this because you can't.
Yeah,
It's all
there's a
messed up.
reason. Yeah. Well, one nice thing about stuff like that and having mono cameras, sorry, one shot color people, close your ears, is you can always shoot just about everything out there. You can shoot HARGB and get a pretty good looking image.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, just about everything out there has got a plethora of hydrogen. If all else fails, for sure.
That's how I find some stuff too. Is
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, that ring, there was no oxygen. That ring that Colorado Astro set me up with, there was no
Hmm.
oxygen data in there, so it was my first hydrogen sulfur image.
Oh,
Came out pretty
interesting.
cool too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, in all the time I've been imaging, I think sulfur is my favorite. There's some stuff out there, like I don't know if you've ever done Orion in SHO. I've done a big project. It's extremely hard to combine. Not really satisfied with the result, but I actually put out just the sulfur image because the structure in it is just amazing. It is the coolest looking thing. I don't know
I'll
if
have to
you're
go
aware of
back
that.
and look. It's been a long time. I tried it once. I didn't like the way it looked, and so I always do it in
Yeah,
color now.
it's hard. It really, I put it out and I was like, am I really going to post this? Yeah, might as well. But it's a tough one. But yeah, it and like the Soul Nebula and those kind of nebulas, the sulfur structure in there is really, it's really amazing. And like, I think I actually posted a sulfur only Eagle Nebula. Amazing. I mean, in itself was just amazing, just
Oh,
because
that
of the
would be
structure and
beautiful.
sulfur. Yeah. So definitely, if you get a chance, shoot that and see what
I'll
you
have to
think. Because
try
I think
that.
that's worth just, a lot of people will do a hydrogen image, process it and post it because it's got a lot of signal.
Yeah,
But
it's got a lot of data.
yeah, it's got a lot. But just pick a target like the Eagle Nebula and just shoot sulfur, shoot 10 or 15 hours of that and process that. It's amazing.
I'll
It'll
have
blow
to
your
try
mind.
that. That sounds
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, for sure. So if you were going to be convincing somebody, because this is for the new guys listening, if you were going to convince them, or not really convince them, That sounded almost like you have to do this. Do you,
Yeah.
if you were going to guide somebody and they said, "Listen, I got some money. I want to get into this hobby," what would you tell them? Mount, camera, scope. Where would you guide them?
Ooh, that's tough right now because of the
Uh,
new strain wave mounts that are coming out all over the place. Because
yeah,
I'm kind of wanting to try one myself, so
yeah.
it'd be a tough one. But I guess right now, just because they're so new, I would say grab one of the tried and true mounts like the EQ6 or the C-Gem or Nioptron 40 or CM40 or something along those lines, so that you've got room to grow in the hobby. And then I would probably get one of the newer like ASCAR offerings with the quintuplet scopes. You don't have to worry about the field flattener and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's good advice for sure.
Because I know that tripped me up when I first started, and then getting that when I first started. In my last video, I was talking about having issues with my field flattener, and my stars at the ends were still not right after 4 years of using the scope. I don't know what the heck happens. It's one of those things, It's one of those astro things that. Why now? What's going on? And you're trying to figure it out, and you can't.
Man, let me tell you something. I'm going to get back to your response, but you just raised up the demon inside of me. Lord, right now I got my hands in the air. I just want to know what in the world, why something works the same way 27 times, and on the 28th time it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work. I don't get it. It doesn't connect. It doesn't. Like, you have worked every time. I take it personal. I get angry, like it's out to just deceive me and destroy my night. Like, I was like, why? How does that even happen? I don't get it.
It happens a lot too in this hobby because there's so much stuff that all works together.
Yeah, that's honestly why I ditched Nina. I ditched all that. I ditched EQ mod. I ditched it all, and I am a tried and true ASI Air. I've got 2 of them. It's easy. Everything's on my phone. I'm getting ready to image here when we hang up. It's just easy. I can't explain it, but everything's under one roof, and it's all there. You don't have to have Sharp Cap, and you don't have to have PhD and all these other programs. I don't know. I'm not trying to sell that, but
no, it's a good device. I've never used one, but I've seen other people use it, and I think they look awesome. The only reason I wouldn't, I'm trying to get into more mosaics, and I don't know how good that would be, but I love fiddling with my guiding. I could make a whole profession just on guiding. So if I don't have the full PhD 2 thing going on, then I
and I get that, and I think right now, like in so much in life, like there's almost too many choices. You're overstimulated. I mean, I think we all are overstimulated with these cell phones in our hand. We know way too much. And that's another thing. It's like, don't give me so many bells and whistles and buttons to click, because I'm really going to screw it up. Just give me the go and the stop in the kind of this. So that's it.
Yeah, and getting back to your original question, I think the SIR Pro would be fantastic for somebody just starting out, because there's way too much to learn in these other programs. You get that on there with a color camera, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
There's just the color cameras like the 2600 MC is just it blows my mind how much it picks up, as much detail almost as a mono camera. It's pretty impressive. So but that wouldn't be really a beginner's camera, but it would be easier for them to do something like that. But with the wide field, you wouldn't really care about guiding anyway. You can probably get a total RMS of almost 2 arc seconds and still not care if you're really wide field.
Yeah. And I think I saw in one of your videos you were off axis guiding. When did you make that switch? And then how do you like that?
Actually, I like off axis guiding way more than guiding with the regular guide scope. But no, I did that when I bought my Edge 8. I wanted
Okay.
to do off-axis guiding. I didn't want well, at the time I didn't have my CM120. I just had the EQ6,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to add even more weight to it. Although that Celestron OAG is a monster. It might actually weigh more than my guide scope and guide camera.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
it's heavy. Everything's so
Really?
heavy on that.
Huh.
But the EQ6 still handles it no problem. It's just that
Yeah.
in the wind, even in the observer, I could image up to almost 20 miles per hour winds.
Oh, wow.
With the CM120 inside the observatory.
Inside the observatory.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. What camera do you use for your guiding?
I like the 174 mm.
Oh, really? Huh. Interesting.
For that, so the prism in the Celestron is huge.
Okay.
And I would only use the 174 in that. I'd probably use the 290 mini if I had the ZWO OAG, because the 174 would probably have a lot of vignetting.
Gotcha.
The mirror's a lot smaller in the ZWO OAG.
Yeah. Have you had troubles, like have you slewed to a target and you don't have any stars? Have you ever had that trouble?
Not really. Not with that Celestron OAG. I mean,
Yeah.
I see a lot.
Good.
And then the 174 is it's a much larger sensor, so I don't really have that issue.
Huh. I have. I honestly have. I'm working on an M101 collaboration right now, and I have to shoot it off center to get some stars, and I only got 2. Shooting at 1,000 millimeters. But there's not a lot of stars around M101 anyway. That's why it's like if off-axis sighting is really better for Milky Way, inner Milky Way images to me, because once you start shooting galaxies, it's tough. I have definitely struggled finding a guide star, and I've seen some pros and cons with it. I feel more peace. Is that the right word? I don't know. But when shooting through a guide scope, because I know I'm going to get saturated with stars, I don't have to worry about it. I still get a little vignetting with the prism, trying to peek down in there and get enough stars that it flats out okay, but it's still a little weird when you see a little corner of your image clipped off. I'm not having that obviously with the 533 because it's got a teeny tiny square sensor.
Yeah, the 2600. I have to set my sensor just right with the. Yeah. Otherwise, it'll interfere with the image. But if it's along one of the upper or lower sides of the sensor, then it's fine.
Yeah. I saw that. I saw it in your videos. Really well done, because I haven't seen it much, and I don't own one. Everybody, Tommy and them guys keep saying you got to buy one. I'm like, I don't got to buy anything. But the 2600, I saw it's got like a front. It looks like a corrector plate. What's that front plate all about? That's different looking.
It's a corrector plate on the front.
So what does it correct? Just for tilt?
Just for tilt, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever had to adjust it?
Nope.
Oh.
I never have. I don't shoot fast. I don't shoot fast enough. So I shoot. With my reducer, the Edge 8's still f7, and with my reducer, the Z81's 5.6, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't shoot fast enough. Now, if I was getting down to like 2.8 or, I think f2.8, f3, you'd have to start using that tilt adjustment plate on it.
Yeah, I'm using an extremely garbage. I hate to say this, Orion telescopes, but your telescopes are garbage. 10-inch Newtonian. And wait till I do a follow-up video. Oh my God. And a lot of tweaking. And I almost wish I had that tilt, because I do know I've got the focus. It's got a 3-inch focuser on it, but it's still, I get tilt and I get differences when I flip.
Okay.
Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah. So what's your favorite galaxies to process or nebulas?
Or nebulas to process.
Yes.
Gosh, there's so many.
No. I mean in general, do you prefer processing galaxies over nebulas or nebulas over galaxies? And then, yeah, what is your favorite?
I enjoy working on nebulas more, I think,
Think
but
so?
just a little. I mean, if we're,
Yeah.
I love doing the galaxies too. It's just completely different. My process for uh, doing nebula and galaxies are completely different from one another. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think nebula is more fun because I'll do the SHO palette
Hmm.
or I'll do an LRGB or an HRGB or 4-ax palette, or I mean, just keep
Yeah.
galaxies are pretty much just LRGB or
Yeah.
HA LRGB.
Yeah. Yeah. They honestly plagued me. My first images of Andromeda were terrible. I mean, the most pastel looking it looked like a pile of vomit. It really did. It looked like somebody went to the fair and got off the tilted world, because it looked just like that. And it just used to just floor me. I could not understand how to process those things, and it was really intimidating, because I would spend all this time and I would shoot some really clean data, and then I would got to process it and it looked terrible. But I think I finally kind of figured it out. PixInsight was a big help. You said you processed with Photoshop. So what was the point in time? Do you remember where you went, Pixin what? and then,
Yeah, yeah. It
and then
wasn't
started using it.
actually too long into it when I knew,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna get into this. I'm doing this, and I went and got the free trial of PixInsight. I always do a lot of research. I was doing a lot of research, and everybody I kept reading these things where like, well, I'm not going to use PixInsight because it's so much money, and blah blah blah. And everyone's like, well, you're spending thousands of dollars on gear. You don't want to spend a couple $100s on the software. It doesn't make any sense, and it's the best. It's the best software there is for doing what we do. So I
Hmm.
decided to go try it, and yeah, I pretty much use that exclusively. But I use about 5, 6 different programs to
Oh, wow.
process my images. I am really strange when it comes to processing.
Tell us about the programs, or is it a trade secret? Is it patent pending?
No. I
Yeah.
mean, I use APP for my pre-processing, and then I use PixInsight for my post-processing, and then from there, or most of it, and then I take it
Yeah.
over to Photoshop, and I like to do some work in the camera raw filter in Photoshop,
Hmm.
and then depending on if I want to try and make it look crisp or more wispy or whatnot, I might take it over to like Topaz denoise, but
Mm.
just the nebula without the stars, and then I'll bring everything back in after and back into PixInsight, and then
Hmm.
use some pixel math to get the stars back in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, use some of Bill Blanchen's stuff that he came up with. Not all the time, but I've been finding myself using it a lot more.
Yeah.
It's really good stuff, and then I like the Star Exterminator. I haven't tried the Blur Exterminator yet. I've seen
What?
a lot of videos on it, but I haven't tried it.
You've been living out in the foothills of Colorado? God.
Yeah.
What's Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. And a lot of people said, excuse me, a lot of people said, well, I remember Adam Block talking about how it wasn't really suited for wide field because you really have to zoom in to see the effects. And I kind of disagree, because what it does is in the linear state, it really takes you on that first step of star reduction, because it shrinks all the stars down, gets rid of the star bloat. So I think no matter
It's like
what
a
focal length you're shooting
deconvolution.
at, yeah, it's a deconvolution on steroids, and it's extremely intelligent. But if you're shooting 300 or 400 millimeters and you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't get it or even try it because Adam Block or somebody else said it was too wide, definitely try it, because the name of the game is getting those stars reduced so they're not obscuring your nebula. And to me, that's the first step to getting those stars smaller and tighter.
Yeah, I've heard some great things about it.
Yeah, it's
Glenn's been talking about it a lot.
yeah. I own all three of his tools: the star, the noise, and the blur. And I heard he's coming out with a gradient exterminator, which he already kind of did in Photoshop. I don't know if you ever use that. I bought that early on.
I did
Um,
too when I was
yeah,
doing my editing in Photoshop only.
Yeah. So if you were given the task of trying to convince, a room full of people, and trying to portray your passion in this hobby and what you find exciting, and in the hopes that maybe, a percentage of them would walk away and go, wow, that inspired me to get into this hobby and really discover and really look up more and be more involved in space. What would you say to these people?
Wow. That's pretty deep.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, man. you know,
I mean, I guess this sound more of a ripoff of Neil deGrasse Tyson, but but
hey,
he, I would probably say something similar to what he says about being, the stars that we're looking up at are made of all the same elements that we're made of. So
mm-hmm.
in a sense, we're made of stardust, and
Yeah,
so looking up at that, you have to kind of feel that awe-inspiring thing that we are part of the universe.
oh yeah, yeah, and that when I tell people, and a lot of people like work with me, I talk about this a lot. I'm sure you probably did when you got into it. There's probably these people like, oh, here comes Joe again. He's going to talk about the stars in the space. I swear. But I was that guy. I was like, you won't believe what I take a picture of, and I'd show them. They're like, what is that? Okay, wait, give me 3 years. But I would, yeah, I would show these pictures, and I go, well, this picture right here is 2 million years old. And I said, or this picture here, the light that left that area was about the same time they were building the pyramids, something like that, and trying to equate it. And people are like, are you kidding me? I don't know
Yeah,
about your
that's
wife,
cool.
but my girlfriend, every time I talk about that stuff, she goes, okay, I'm going shopping. I'll see you later. Cause screw it. Nothing matters. I'm just going to go spend money. Yeah. So how's your wife been with this hobby? Because it really takes a very supportive partner, because you're out there all night long. And how's she been with this?
She's pretty supportive. She
Good.
is.
Good.
She still gets scared every time I go out to the observatory in the middle of the night, because we live in the mountains. We have bobcats, mountain lions, bears, coyotes. Yeah, there's
Oh
some
yeah.
animals out there that'll eat you for a midnight snack.
Yeah.
But so she's always nervous when I'm out there at like 2 in the morning, out in the middle of a field. But other than that, she's really supportive of the hobby and enjoys looking at the pictures that I create.
That's cool. Yeah, you have to have it, and it's funny, I guess you're like me, because I'm sure you guys got together and you were into this hobby as much. I'm sure you were into other things, but this is a very consuming hobby, so it's not like she knew this going in.
Oh
But
yeah,
if
no,
yeah,
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 exactly.
they were like, wait, they're like feeling over in the bed. Where are you? You're not here. You know. Yeah, yeah. Then you're going, look at this, look at this, look at this, and they're going, I don't see anything, but yay! So yeah, they really, as far as mine, she's really had to go from one Steve to the other Steve. The Steve that was going, oh my god, I'm not look at my guiding graph. Look at my number. It's 0.30. 0.30. She's like, I don't get it. But if
Yeah.
you were like in this hobby and then dating, you really would have to really have a sit down conversation with that person and say, that's a big deal. You'd have to say, listen, like, this is a huge part of my life. I mean, for you, you're doing YouTube channel. You got a YouTube channel. You're processing images. You're taking images. You've got a whole observatory built. That's a big deal that you really got to get across to somebody. So having that support, or starting out and not having somebody join you and go, yeah, I've got to dive into this. I mean, you can't hide
Yeah,
that.
it does.
Yeah.
No, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah. So what else are you into? What do you do to kind of break the monotony of photographing stuff out in space?
Well, every time there's a clear night, I am photographing.
Good.
So it's very rare that there's a clear night and I'm not
Yeah.
actually. Um, but I just started a new business. It's a woodworking business. I've been doing a
Cool.
lot of woodworking. I also am an avid four-wheeler. I go Jeep. I've got a 2010 Jeep, and I go jeeping every summer up in
Oh,
the
wow.
mountains. Unfortunately, it's a very short window here because you have
Yeah.
to wait for the snow to melt and off the peaks to climb most of them and stuff, and then the snow comes back pretty quick. So that's short lived. I also boat. We have a pretty good sized lake, and I own a pontoon boat that the whole family gets on at least
Oh,
once a
cool.
week, and we all go fishing on it and about once a week on there. So that's a lot of fun. Again, that's just in the summertime though. And yeah,
Does
that's
your Jeep have the exterior or the extra seat cover that says if you can read this, then there's trouble because it's written upside down?
oh yeah. Thankfully, I've never flipped it before, but yeah, it's all decked out
Uh,
to go rock crawling.
good,
So
good. That's
yeah,
fun.
I do
Yeah,
that quite often,
and you got
and
to.
I take regular terrestrial photography.
Oh
There's
yeah.
where I live. There's a lot of eagles and falcons, hawks. Uh, it's fun. There's some osprey. So I yeah, pretty much take a lot of images. We also have an Air Force Reserve base, and of course the Air Force Academy, and a lot of Air Force planes that come through. We've got NASA planes coming through. As a matter of fact, I did a video where I was trying to do a video in this F-16. National Guard F-16 is practicing in our backyard. Because
Wow.
again, I live in the rural area, so they come out here. They're not going to go over
Mhm.
like a major city, and
Yeah.
they're doing all these inverted nosedives, breaking the sound barrier, and I'm sitting there trying to record this video, yelling at the F-16. And my friend Logan from Logan's
Uh,
astrophotography,
yeah.
he leaves me a comment, and he's like, normal people have like a Cessna or Piper Cub coming over. You've got F-16.
Yeah.
So it's just funny.
Yeah. I've actually had Amazon, who I shop from regularly, has a flight plan directly over my house, and
Oh,
that has been since I've started the hobby. So yeah, I get a lot more big planes. They actually have a huge warehouse, and they I don't know how much they're shipping, but it's ungodly
wow.
amount into Central Florida. So, and I have that, and then of course I could see, like last night I was seeing SpaceX do a launch, so I could still
Oh,
see the
that's
rockets,
cool.
yeah,
That's
take off.
really
So
cool.
yeah, and it's cool when there's some atmospheric condition that happens when that comm trail from the rocket just is lit up, from the sky glow and everything, and it just creates some amazing shapes. It's hard to
Oh,
even
that's pretty
describe.
neat.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool to see night before last. But that's SpaceX, and they're putting more satellites in the sky. Yay,
Yeah,
Elon. Yeah.
you kind of love them and hate them at the same time.
Oh, I know. I've definitely, I don't know about you, but shooting Orion over,
Oh, it's so
well, going
bad.
on 4.5 years now of shooting Orion every year, and I've noticed the
I've
geo satellites that are more prevalent in that area.
yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed those.
It's no, yeah, it's
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
can't. I
real
don't
bad.
even know 15-second subs, and I still have 4 or 5 of them in every
Oh yeah.
frame.
Do you blink your images in PixInsight? Do you ever use that
I
tool?
do.
So you run it
I
and you see
always
them
use it.
shooting. Yeah, you see them
Yeah.
shooting all over the place. Yeah, yeah. So what made you get into to putting yourself out there on YouTube and going down that path of adding the extra task of recording everything you're doing?
Just because it was so difficult to learn,
Yeah.
and while I was while I was learning it, the two main people that I would watch were well, there was like two or three, but there was Chuck and Ray and Kurt,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and so I thought, well, maybe I should add something to it. I should give back. And
Mm-hmm.
because I was learning things, and you're sitting there, and you finally get something, because you've got all this stuff, and it's not working, and you're up all night, like meridian flips. I did this video on how to figure out your meridian flips in the middle of the day, so you don't have to do it at night. And
Mm-hmm.
when I figured out I could do this in the middle of the day, I had to make a video about it
Yeah.
because I wanted everybody to know that you could do this and you're not sitting there like I was in the middle of the night trying to figure out why I'm not doing the meridian flip correctly. And so that's really what got me started. I thought, well, I'm gonna just start making videos, and then I'm a real goof, and so most of my videos I have to try and put something stupid or goofy in as well, because if it's not entertaining or funny, or
Yeah.
remember one video I on the automated roof, I called my son, and of course, like I said, I live like 20 miles out of town. He had to drive
Yeah.
all the way up here, and I mixed some mayo and some other stuff, some whipped cream and things, and I got it in a little thing, and I said, okay, when I get over here, you're going to be like the bird, and you're going to drop this on my head, but you got to stay out of sight. So I made him crawl up on top of the observatory, and when I gave him the cue word, on videoing it, then he hit me with it, and it came
Yeah.
out great. And then, we were done and everything, and he was like, I
Yeah.
can't believe I just spent, I drove out here for 30 minutes, got to drive back for 30 minutes to dump some bird crap on your head.
What happened to my dad?
But he did it, and
Yeah.
I'm just...
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy because I have a lot of neighbors, and I have neighbors that make a lot of weird noises, and like you're talking about the F-16, like I'm like, and my neighbor's like with the string trimmer. It's like he's watching me, and I'm like, what is my neighbor doing? And I'll put that in the video. And then I've actually, like, I don't know about you, but you live out, but I live in like a subdivision, and it takes a while to meet your neighbors. And then I've met them, and I'm like, and I talk about what I do, and they go, oh man, you take that picture in your backyard. That's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, I got a YouTube channel. And all of a sudden I went, oh shit, I shouldn't have told them I had a YouTube channel, because I was talking shit about them 3 videos ago.
Yeah, they're gonna come and hey.
Wait, is he talking about me?
That's funny.
Yeah. It never fails. But you power through it. I don't know about you, but YouTubing has been, I would rather image, and I'd rather have all the challenges of imaging than YouTube photo, production and video editing. And it's hard.
It's hard.
It's very
It takes
hard.
a long time. I took a 3-month break while I was setting up my new business, just
Yeah.
because it just takes too long to edit all your footage, get all your video together and edit it. And sometimes you want to put music to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's time consuming.
Do you script what you're going to say, or you just know kind of in your head and you sit down and just let it rip?
Yeah, pretty much. Just let it rip.
Yeah.
Sometimes I script it. It depends on the video I'm doing. If I'm trying to do something funny, I did a collaboration. Well, I do a lot of collaborations with Glenn.
Yeah, I noticed.
From the Astro channel, and we just have a ball. But like I would do something we did one with Kurt a while back, and we scripted this thing where he was working with the Omicron kind of stuff, and we do crazy things like that. And so I'll script those. I was doing the Antlia filter thing, and I thought it'd be funny if I was sitting there playing with Legos or something, and Glenn popped up on my monitor and caught me, right? And then he caught me.
What are you doing, mate?
What are you doing? And then the next shot's me with the Antlia filters. Oh, I'm putting my Antlia filters in the new filter wheel.
That's funny.
So,
yeah, you got to, man. You got to get your sense of humor across, because this hobby's way too serious to take yourself that serious.
Yeah.
Because we're all just knuckleheads out here trying to figure out how to do shit that most normal people don't know how to do. Yeah,
I think most normal people wouldn't want to do what we do.
No.
It's almost self-torture, some of the stuff that we have to go through.
Yeah. It's funny because, my job is very demanding mentally, and you would think that I would want to do something after work that didn't require any thinking, but it's kind of the opposite. It's therapy, because I can really tune out a lot of life.
Oh yeah.
When I'm just focusing on why my EFW isn't getting any signal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, it's like 1 a.m, and you get up for work in the morning, but you know you can get this to work, and you got like 3 more hours of darkness that you don't want to lose, and you're not thinking about anything except for what you're working on right then and there,
right then and there,
middle of the night, and it's a great escape.
Yeah, and no is not an option. Not working is not. Very rarely will I ever just pack it up and say, "Yeah, screw it." I will stay out there till I freaking figure it out. You
Yeah,
know.
you kind of have to,
So
uh,
yeah.
except
So
for
have you noticed like
planetary.
that hobby is brought anything to your life that maybe you're a different person in things outside of
Yes,
this hobby because of it?
patience. I have
Ah,
never been a very patient person before.
yeah,
This hobby has really taught me. My wife would probably disagree, but this
yeah,
this hobby's taught me patience.
yeah.
It just takes time, and um, like I think I had an image that was like 106 hours. It was 126 hours. I can't remember now, and I didn't like it, and I threw it away.
Wow, wow.
It's just like,
I okay, we're done now. See ya. No.
yeah. So it's just, yeah. I spend hours upon hours sometimes. And not on all targets, but like some targets, I think after so many hours, just you're not gonna see anything more from them.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
just,
The diminishing return.
yeah, yeah. But there's other objects out there that I think you could probably put 1,000 hours on and still not
Yeah,
have everything that's out there.
for me, I think luminance data, shooting mono, I think there's an end to how much you're going to get. Like if you're shooting a galaxy and you're shooting luminance, especially when I'm shooting in Bortle 6, 7 skies, you know what else I'm shooting? Light pollution.
Yeah.
And I think there's a limit, and I think I tried to shoot like 30 or 40 hours of luminance on something thinking that was going to make it better, and it just made it harder to flatten out. It made it harder to process. And especially like with Blur Exterminator, somebody else doesn't have it. Especially with it just makes all the difference in the world. And Noise Exterminator to me adds 30% of signal loss that you didn't get by being out there in the mosquitoes and the cold and the bears. Uh, so those two tools have really helped that. But I think for me, I think hydrogen you could probably shoot to your heart's content, but my personal opinion, luminance, there's an area where you probably just need to shut it off because you're not
Yeah,
getting
on
much out of all that
galaxies,
effort.
I wouldn't, yeah, not on galaxies for sure. I think there's only so long you could take of them. And
Yeah. So wrapping up, what's your 2023 Astro goals?
well, I already, I wa- well, I guess I was really 22, but I already
Yeah.
missed some of the stuff I wanted to do this winter, just because of the weather. There's not
Yeah.
much else I could do, but I'm probably looking to move on from my Z81, and I think that later in the summer I'm gonna see if I can get even a more wide field scope, and then I'd also
Okay.
like to get something in the 700 to 800 millimeter range, and then of course keep my Edge HD. Where I live, I could shoot the native focal length of 2000
Mm-hmm.
just because I can. It's my skies are dark enough that I could take 20, 30-minute exposures and not
Oh
wipe
wow.
it out to the light pollution. So I've got the high end already covered. With the reducer, I'm at 1400, and without the reducer, I'm at 2000. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking of looking for something around the 800 millimeter, 7 to 800, and then go all the way down to like the 250 to 300.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I've got that TPO 180. Really cool scope. It's a triplet. You got to get the Deep Sky Dad, which I don't have. I manually focus it with a little mini tiny Batnoff mask. But
oh,
that,
okay, yeah.
that coupled, because it still, I think it will accept an APC size sensor. I don't think it'll do full frame, but that's a cool little scope. And I use it actually right now is a guide scope on the 80 millimeter. But all I got to do is pull the camera off the 80, put a guide camera in it, and then put that camera on the 180 TPO and shoot 180 millimeters at f4, which is pretty cool.
That is.
Yeah, that's been, and ASCAR has essentially the same scope. But well, cool. I definitely appreciate your time tonight. It was good getting to know you better
Yeah,
for
thanks for
sure. And
having me on. It was a lot of
yeah,
fun.
man. And I'm definitely wanting to have people back on. So if you you do another collaboration or something you want to talk about, or if you want to just dive into something more specific, definitely get you back on for sure.
That sounds great. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's a lot of fun.
All right, Joe.
Thanks,
Well, it's good
Steve.
meeting you. Good talking to you. And we're going to sign
Same
off and really super appreciate it, man.
Thank you. I had a lot of
dude.
fun. Thanks.
Yep. See ya.
See ya.